Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube. And our special guest, St Mirren boss. Delighted to have your panel and give us all the support over the course of the season. Here's what's coming up.
Coming up on today's show, brought to you by Arnold Clark Rewards. Brendan Rodgers believes Celtic have bounced back since their defeat to St Johnstone earlier this month. Simo Valakari insists his side have the quality to stay in the Premiership despite their position in the league table. Neil Crtichley calls out Saturday's referee John Beaton after Hearts missed out on a place in the Scottish Cup final. And finally, Jimmy Tilleen says that Aberdeen must take advantage of being in the cup final where they'll come up against Celtic next month.
The things we'll be talking about, great to have Stephen with us, and great for you to be able to walk around Paisley as if you're kingpin because you're in the top six.
I actually walk around Kilmarnock and get hammered, so that's a problem. No, it's been a good week. It's been an enjoyable week.
Yeah, punching well above your weight, and I know you'll play it down, but to get it 3 years in the trot is some going.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure who told me, it was us, Rangers and Celtic, that have been the only consistent top six sides. That probably puts it into perspective a little bit more. And I know we took a little bit of stick for celebrating it. We got a lot of stick for it. But success is all relative. And for St Mirren to do that 3 years in a row after not being in it for 40 years, I think it's a special achievement from the group of players and all the staff involved, the backroom staff that don't get credit, you know, the groundsmen and everybody working long hours to make the club go forward.
I was going to pick you up on that point because Callum Davison, we discussed it when Queen's Park defeated Rangers, and Callum Davison said, no, celebrate. You know, this is once 25 years, once in 100 years. Rangers, you've knocked them out the cup. Yes, we are going to celebrate, and I think you know what it's like nowadays. Everybody looks for that little negative angle on it. Your boys should have celebrated.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I think it's been well documented now over the last week about the problems that we faced throughout the season, and that was the reason I described it as my biggest achievement, because it was things you don't learn in any course. There's no management course teaches you how to deal with the situations that we had. We don't have a magic wand of money to fix it. So you're battling through and just concentrating on the group of players that are available and doing their very best. And to see them week in, week out, and we had bad runs during the season, we had good runs during the season, and to see them have that character, even at 2-2, to still find a way to win the game, I was delighted for them. And listen, people think I don't do that there normally. Every game we celebrate, and every game we celebrate like that in the dressing room, and they've not actually shown the footage afterwards. The boys were going crazy, but they do it after every win, because you don't know when it's your last game, you don't know when you're going to get injured. And I have a story about Toyosi Olusanya as well that I can tell you later on about a perfect example of it. But it's enjoy the moment, because you don't know when it's going to come back round again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% correct. Celebrate those moments, especially when you're going over the course of the season. We've had Stephen in before talking about those runs when it's going against you and everybody's on your case.
Yeah, I think particularly now, managers seem to be 3 or 4 games from a crisis, under pressure, and you've seen it all season. There's not really been clubs where they're real consistent on a form. Aberdeen at the start, then they hit a bad run. Hibs had a bad run at the start, so did Hearts. So I think St Mirren have obviously had a pretty poor start, but then had that consistency once they were at Europe and got some players back. But yeah, absolutely. I think for St Mirren to be in the top 6, I played against St Mirren a couple of times in the Championship, and for the top 6, three seasons in a row is fantastic for the club.
Yeah, you talk about runs, Stephen, where you suddenly you're the one manager who treats the success of a run and the bad runs with the same disdain. You know, you don't get caught up in the moment of it. How do you deal with the situation? I mean, I'm looking at, you're talking about games. I'm looking at Sean Rooney, Kevin Van Veen, Jayden Brown. Those are things that come out of left field that you don't expect. Are those the things that you still stick in your mind and say, look, I might have things like that to deal with that can derail us?
I didn't think I'd have 3 of them to deal with, I have to say, and 3 of them within, I think it was a 3-week period. So usually probably in your management career you get one situation like that, and it was a really tough situation for everybody, for the board to make decisions. For Keith, it was Keith's first year as chief executive as well. So, you've got to make all those decisions. And for the players as well, there's a personal element to that as well. Everyone makes mistakes in life, and we've had to deal with it. And I think everyone's looking at you to lead it, and you walk in the morning and the players are looking to see your reaction to it and your take on it, and you just have to, as you say, try and treat everything the same. As much as in the background it might be crazy, you've got to remain calm and try and deal with the situation as best you can, and the only way to do that is focus on what you can control. And we did. Well, the only thing we can control is the football pitch, team selection, fitness, and our standards on the pitch. So I tried to solely focus on that, and I have to say the board were very good with me on that. And Keith Lasley. Keith Lasley wishes he was Keith Gillespie, actually, because he never had Keith Gillespie's pace. And Jim Gillespie as well, obviously, for leading the board and making them decisions. And they took it out of my hands. I was told, concentrate on football, and I was able to do that and deal with the players in front of me.
Did you feel a little personal responsibility, though? Because I would totally and utterly get why you bring certain players in, because you think sometimes the train stops with a bit of opportunity or a player that might be a standard above what you can attract normally.
Yeah, and I think all three players were. I believe if you've been at a football club for 3 years, something has to change. So whether the manager changes, which is the usual aspect of football, or you reinvent the squad and you reinvent your style, which I've done at Motherwell a couple of times. And we brought Kevin in because we didn't think we knew what a goal scorer he was, if we could get him right. Jaden gave us more of a winger type situation as wing back instead of being quite rigid with our 3-5-2. And Sean, was a proven SPFL player, could get up and down, added lots of goals from that area of the pitch. So that was our freshness. Our freshness all of a sudden was gone. And you feel a personal thing to the players as well. As you say, I brought them in. You couldn't write a book that would tell you these three things would all happen in one situation. But it's out of your control. These things happen in life. They're young men. They make decisions. They make mistakes, rightly or wrongly. And people have to make the decisions above me, and they did, and they were decisive with the decisions, and we handled it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be Celtic Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup final. Ruffy, we looked at the two semi-finals. I don't think too many people fancied St Johnstone to get out of it without a spanking. He picked 5, I picked 4. How many did you go for?
That was 3, I think.
Yeah, it was a tough call. He was talking about dreams, he was talking about miracles, Simo Valakari prior to the game. In the end, they were dismantled in a very short space of time.
Yeah, I think they dug in for a wee while, I think it was 30 odd minutes or something like that, but you could see, Stephen will know better than us, the possession they have in the game with the ball. There was one stage, the two centre halves, I think, were 30 yards for the St Johnstone goal. That's how much they had pressed up. They'd pressed the whole game into their bit, but as soon as the first goal went in, I think the writing was on the wall, but they dug in the second half, so I think they'll have to take something out of the game with the games that are coming up.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers happy enough, obviously, to bounce back from that earlier defeat against St Johnstone in the league.
We needed to respond from the St Johnstone game, which 2 weeks ago wasn't acceptable for our club. But the response of the players now, they've had 2 games done by half time, but still showed the ambition to keep going. It's a time of the season where the trophies are there. The supporters want it, we want it, but then it's about you got to perform. So we're into another final. That was the big ambition from today, and give us that opportunity against Aberdeen in a month or so's time. But now we go into a little sort of mini league where we want to be the best in that little league, and that next game is Dundee United and get the result to draw a line under the league.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers fairly happy with it. You will probably absolutely empathise and sympathise with Simo Valakari, because there is always a game plan in your mind as a manager of how you're going to come up against Celtic and how you try and thwart this constant possession they play.
Yeah, what they do is they wear you down. They're such a good side. They continually move the ball, and you can be set up very well defensively, but it is a matter of time before they break you down unless you have some sort of control in the game. And if you don't get that control, or you don't get a break, so to speak, in possession of it, eventually there'll be a mistake. Somebody will switch off, and that's what they're very good at. Their patience is incredible, and I think Callum McGregor just makes them tick. Everything that happens comes through him. He changes the tempo like that in the final third, and they've got players that are comfortable to be left 2v2, and when we've had any joy, it's been when we've hit them on the counter attack or been able to buy passes and get a small bit of possession position, which relieves the pressure. But eventually, and Simo obviously had a game plan that worked for a period of time. But as you say, once they get the first goal, you've got to do something. You've got to try and come out, and once you come out, you leave yourself overexposed.
With that in mind, I mean, you mentioned Callum McGregor there. How highly do you rate him, and how difficult is it for you to tell your players, here's a role that you've got to stop him dictating the pace of the game?
It is difficult because subconsciously your players, we want them to press. We're a team that presses and we press aggressively and high. But on occasions they've pressed where they don't believe they're going to win the ball. So you're running towards the ball without actually thinking you're going to win it because there's too much respect. Rightly so because of the level, but you have to believe that you can take something out of it. And we have taken Celtic very close on occasions, and it's been the last 15, 20 minutes where they make subs and they bring 4 and 5 players on when you're tired, and they continue to be patient, continue to get the ball in behind you and break you down. So it is difficult. Convincing the players is the hardest bit, that they can actually affect the game and win the game.
I think it's difficult to ask, if you play 2 up front, a striker to drop into Callum McGregor and nullify him. Strikers, I remember doing that with Barry Ferguson or Arteta at Rangers. You don't want to be chasing him about the whole game, and it's difficult for a player to have a discipline to go and do that as a striker. And that's probably what you've got to do with Callum McGregor. You've either got to push one of your midfield players up and just sit on him, or you've got to drop one of your forwards in on him. So I think it's difficult to try and get someone who's got the discipline to go and do that in a game.
I think Callum's clever enough as well. When you do actually go and mark him, he just takes you out of the game. Yeah. So it's another man out of the game, a man less up front, or if it's a midfielder that you release, it's a man less where they expose you with their high eights as well. So they're a very good side, very technical side that keep moving the ball until you tire. Simply, they move the ball until you tire, and it's difficult to play against.
Yeah, and the captain himself has paid tribute to the manager Brendan Rodgers for his contribution to him as a player.
And obviously, we had a chat before he came back, and that's what we're talking about, is trying to win as many trophies as we can, be as dominant as we can, keep pushing the club. So we'd already had that conversation before he came back in, and absolutely, he's a manager that's done so much for my career and put so much trust and faith in me. So every time I go on the pitch, I try and repay that for him, and the best way to do that is by winning trophies.
Is he the best midfielder you've seen in the country?
Certainly since I've been here, yeah. Certainly, I don't think there's any that can rate for consistency as well every game. And when he comes out of the Celtic team, as much as they have loads of talent to come in, they're not quite the same. They're not quite the same without him.
Yeah. Now you are better placed than most for this bottom 6 situation, because St Johnstone obviously had that welcome respite of thinking about the cup, and as they keep getting past the stages to the semi-final, great credit to them. But suddenly they're just adrift. But I don't think Simo Valakari has read the script on it. Have you been surprised by him, the way he's changed the way they set up and the way they've actually managed to get a few results in that nobody thought they would?
Yeah, Simo's got a style, and he's gone in and tried to implement that, and that takes time. It takes a few windows to do that as well, and he's a really good guy. I think he's a real positive character as well. So he'll believe it's a horrible situation down there. Our celebrations were relief as well, yeah. I can tell you, because you go on a bad run at this stage and you lose 2 games, you're all playing each other. Anybody could get dragged into that. So, Simo will still have hope with the players he has. He's got players in the forward areas that I think are a real threat. I think the boy Sidibe, very like Olusanya in our team, where he can expose you in behind. So they won't think they're out of it yet, and I'm certain the other teams above them won't either.
Yeah, were you at that point, obviously the relief you mentioned about getting into the top 6, was there that element of thinking to yourself, if we don't get in there, that whole 6 are automatically thinking, one's thinking, okay, St Johnstone are adrift, but the rest of them are looking and thinking, could we get dragged into that?
5 points,
could we get dragged into that playoff?
It's funny, like a point is a brilliant season compared to what could be a disastrous season, so football's a very, very strange game, and sometimes the narrative is so up and down, from being, we're under pressure now relegation wise, it's an unbelievable 3 seasons in a row. So I feel everybody's pain in the bottom 6, because everyone's going to be involved in it. There's going to be surprises. there's going to be surprise results, because the pressure that's real pressure. Playing there for your livelihood and the club's livelihood is proper pressure. And I said that to our players. Playing Celtic and Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, whoever it may be, that's not pressure. Pressure is when you're fighting for your life in terms of keeping people in jobs.
Yeah, I know you've gone on a number of shows and you'll have been talking to journalists up and down the country, so I'm not going to be two-faced about it, Stephen. I might as well tell you I went to Fir Park thinking Hearts are going to do it, because I watched them against Dundee United, they were poor, and then I watched them against Hearts, they have Shanklin on the bench, and I'm thinking, this game is dire. And then all of a sudden the whole thing switches towards you. Were you aware of that? What was going on? I mean, your game was a belter.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Our doc likes to be on the phone telling us everything that's going on, so I banned them. I said, no phones. I don't want to know anything. I said, win the game for two reasons. The reasons we just spoke about. Win the game, and we were practically safe. With 41 points, it's unlikely that you're going to lose the next 5 games and get relegated. So that was first and foremost. Get the 3 points, you can relax and enjoy the rest of the season. So only when it went 3-2, did I turn around to Brian Kerr and go, what's the score in the other game? And he was like, 0-0, a couple of minutes to go. So I think he said to me, 5, and I went, what, Hearts are winning 5? He went, no, 5 minutes to go. So yeah, it was once that we knew we were winning and it was still 0-0. And their game finished, I believe, before ours. So it was just a matter of seeing the last 2 minutes out.
Yeah, Simo Valakari still thinks St Johnstone can avoid relegation.
I see what my players can do it, but if we use this game, example, it's still there, what it affects us. We can do a lot of good things, but then our bad things are dragging us down, and they have been long time there, and that's the thing what we need to fix it. If we can do that, I believe our level is good enough to compete and to stay in this league.
Of all of the teams, tough call. St Johnstone will battle away. It's hard to pick the other 5 who's going to be in that playoff.
You're not asking me that, are you? Genuinely, I couldn't give you an answer, because it could be anybody. You go on a little run, as I said. If you lose a couple of games now, panic sets in. Fans' expectation. Kilmarnock and Dundee were top 6 sides last year. Hearts were a European side last year. So all of a sudden, fans get restless, and it puts a heck of a lot of pressure on the players.
I've picked Ross County. Who did you pick, Ruffy?
I picked Ross County as well.
Sam?
Yeah, I think Ross County as well. I think Dundee have got goals in them. I think they'll scrape it. Kilmarnock could be the other one. You're right. A great season last season and been disappointing this season. So, a bit interesting to see how Hearts approach it. Obviously, they'll be disappointed by getting put out of the cup, and they've got Dundee, I believe, at home in the first game. I think if they win that, they'll be practically safe. But if they lose it, as Stephen says,
Is it a big advantage when you come to the split, when they do that fixture list, 3 at home, 2 away for the last 5 games?
Yeah, I think so. We've got 3 at home as well. Teams will obviously fancy themselves with their home crowd. Gives you a little bit more momentum as well. But also it gives more expectation. If you're not, at certain clubs, you're not winning 2-0, but after half hour, then, the expectation rises. And players are human beings. They feel the pressure. And certainly, I didn't want to be in it, and that's why we celebrated, as I said, and that's our whole narrative was to the players. Like, forget the top 6. If we get the top 6, it's a huge bonus for this football club. Let's make sure we're in the division, which is our ultimate goal when we start out at the start of the season.
Would you budget for 10th then, Stephen? At the start of the season, would the club budget for 10th?
To be fair, and I've said this to numerous people, we don't, because the club's run very prudently, we only have, I think it's 1,400 fans in the Smizer group that owns the majority. So our budget's similar. It'll be 1 or 2 players maybe, where you're able to, if you're top 6, you might get 1 more player you're able to pay $2,000 for, or if you're in the bottom 6, you might not get that player. So it's not really, you can go and get another 5 players and $4,000 and $5,000 a week. So we knew roundabouts what we had, which allowed us to speak to people long before we knew what situation we were in.
Here's a question for you then. Everybody's obsessed by saying, Hearts are going to be a really good force because of Jamestown analytics. What are the analytics for St Mirren? Is it manager goes to see player? Is it Stephen Robinson goes to see player and thinks he can control it? He's quite quick. I'll take him.
No, I'll tell you what our analytics are. We've got one scout in the whole world, Martin Foyle, who is an incredible man. He does absolutely everything for me, and he produces players year on year. And upon the players we're fishing in, which is so small, A, that want to come to Scotland, B, that nobody else wants most of the times, and we see small attributes in them that we think we can make them better. So we've got a couple of guys who do it for free in London that we ask them to look, because London's like a whole different area to get to. It takes 3 hours to get everywhere. So that's about the extent of it. We've got some data stuff in terms of Y-Scout and Huddle, but very, very limited what we have. Very limited.
If Martin says to you, by the way, I know the type of player you like, this guy is it, you then take his word for it?
No, I then go and watch.
You go and watch?
Yeah, I then go. And in every occasion, probably bar Keanu Bacchus, I couldn't get obviously to Australia to see him, but I'd watch enough to see. You can't hide if somebody can run. You can't hide, their enthusiasm, their quality on the ball, whatever it may be. So we took a little bit of a gamble with Keanu after speaking to numerous people. So the way it would be is one of my staff will go and watch first, and then I'll try and go and watch. Somebody from the staff will have seen them live. We'll use what data we can. We'll ask loads of different people in the game their opinion and character. I think character is a big thing. I'd love to have Jamestown Analytics with us to help us, but the bigger thing for me is it's a filtering tool. So you can identify players that you'd maybe never come across at all. The things that you probably can't see are character. You can't see their character, you can't see what type of guy they are. And it's important to do, I believe, combine both. If we had the opportunity to combine them both, it would certainly help our chances anyway.
Yeah.
Stephen, would it put it off your player if you watch a player and you thought, I really like him, and you phoned somebody and they gave you a bad review about him to say he wasn't a great character? Would that?
Not necessarily just one. It depended if it was somebody that I really trusted and knew what I wanted. I would try and phone numerous people, because in football you fall out with people. Everybody takes everything in life personal now, and sometimes you've got to make decisions. So I'm sure there's plenty of people say Stephen Robinson's not a nice guy or whatever it is, and sometimes there's reasons behind it. So I think it's important that you view it as a whole and find as much information out as you possibly. Stupid things. Martin will troll social media and make sure, what are they doing? What are they doing off the pitch and things, and are they married? And, have they got kids? Are they settled? Are they out in the Wonder Bar up in Glasgow every night of the week? You have to do that research, because it does affect, we can only run with a small squad, so every signing, and you're going to get signings wrong. Whatever way you do it, people are spending millions and getting signings wrong. Contrary to some reports in newspapers, we don't pay 6 figures for players, and we didn't pay 6 figures for Olusanya. It's small fees that you believe you can chip away with and make that potential into a very good player.
It's difficult, obviously, because of the difference in time, and you don't have a DeLorean car to go back the way. But I wonder, when you look and you see a great shot stopper, he's young, he's got blonde hair, looks good, but hangs about with Miss Worlds and goes to parties. I wonder, would you have signed Robbie?
100%. 100%. Martin Floyd would have highly recommended him.
If I'm in trouble, what chance has he got?
It's just as soon as you said it there, I thought, no wonder if he'd signed Robbie.
I've had plenty of players that enjoy themselves, put it like that. But there's times and places, if we all make mistakes as well. But if they turn up on a Monday morning and they're ultra professional, then sometimes you've got to turn a blind eye. And I've done that plenty of times since I've been St Mirren manager, believe me. Things haven't made the press or the newspapers to protect people. But ultimately, they were doing it on the pitch for me. So they're doing it on the pitch for you. I look the other way and pretend I never heard it.
Well, that's why I thought Brendan Rodgers handled it well, and Callum McGregor after the match. I mean, if Adam Idah goes out on a night out, I mean, you are aware that people film everything these days, but if he does the business on the pitch, then all well and good.
Yeah, you'd prefer it not to happen. Yeah. But if they do, of course, ultimately, that's what they're paid for, to produce on the football pitch. So they're young men; they're allowed to go out. You don't control them 24 hours a day. It's not it's not a regime where you have to be in bed by 10 o'clock. You have to trust people and you have to treat them as adults.
Yeah. Aberdeen eventually, after extra time, snatched a late goal to win it against Hearts, and Hearts are well and truly miffed with the referee John Beaton. They've released a 484-word document showing their displeasure at the way he handled the game. Neil Crtichley, after the match, was highly critical of the match official.
I've never seen a referee get a red card out quicker in my entire life, to be honest with you. It's a long way from goal, and we've got recovering defenders, and he couldn't wait to send him off. When you try to say things in a respectful way, you hope you get respect back, and I like to think I give everyone respect in the way that I conduct myself and the way I speak to you guys and everyone, and you'd expect that in return, and I don't think I've got that.
Was he hard done by?
No, I don't think he was, Peter. I thought he was clean in. I think they're unlucky that it was Keskin and it wasn't Shinnie. Because I don't think Shinnie would have ran away for the last man, but it's Keskin who's a flying machine. He took the touch by the last man and he pulled him down. I don't think the other boy was getting across Forrester. So I thought he got that call right. I didn't think he got the second one right. Didn't think that was a second yellow card, Devlin.
Yeah.
I don't think he touched him.
I think that's the one he's talking about.
Is that the one he's talking about?
He's talking about Devlin and he feels as if he was itching to send him off.
Yeah, that was poor, Peter. That was not a second yellow card for me. And that just gave Aberdeen that little bit of impetus with 3 or 4 minutes to go and get the winner. I thought Hearts were holding them out to that point, but the first one I don't think anyone had any complaints about.
Yeah, Ruffy, the first one is. I still think he's got a wee bit to travel, and there's a player coming in from the other side.
I can see where the manager thinks he made the decision very quick. He did make it really quick, but again, the referee's got to make that decision there and then. You know, I like Tam. I thought the 2 players that were to the right of him weren't going to catch him. I think one was too wide. I think if he'd pushed the ball wide, you know, it might have been worth a look at. But he was going straight in, and unfortunately, I think it just spoiled the game.
Yeah, it put them right behind the 8 ball once you get down to 9 men. Now, they've released a document, obviously a statement, which is clearly they want to speak to the SFA, and they've said that of all the decisions this season, you know, there's maybe one that's gone in their favour. My God, you must have had a wry smile thinking to yourself, hang fire, Hearts, you're not even in the top 5 in this
3-1 game against Dundee United.
Yeah, we don't have enough people or staff to write 484 words, so it's... I
was going to say, we were talking about Varna, you know, we always talk in the studio about managers looking at fixtures that are coming up. Do you ever sit in the office with the guys and look at all the VARs that went against you and went, there's a point there, there's 2 points there.
Of course you do, yeah.
If you count them all, it's a lot of points.
We're the only league table we're top off this year is VAR decisions against us, and we've had numerous apologies, of course, and every manager's frustrated with it because VAR was there to rectify human error, and we're not rectifying human error. And I'm right in saying Cammy's was the second yellow card, aren't they?
Yes.
Yep. I mean, we've had 3 apologies for second yellow cards. That's what VAR should be there for. If it's actually leading to a red card, that affects the game. And then affects the week after because you missed that game as well.
You can't appeal a second yellow card.
You can't appeal it. So you can't appeal it. You get your apology. And I believe the refereeing department are looking at that. And it has to change because it's affecting the immediate game, which it did on Sunday. Saturday, sorry. And it's affecting the week after because they then suspended the week after, which we've had 3 of them. 3 second yellows. So they're not included in the VAR mistake list. But for me, that's what VAR is there for blatant errors. You know, stand up and see those decisions, but VAR's not seeing them at the minute as often as it should be. It's improving, of course. It's not going away. That's the problem. So we have to try and work with it. I do believe Willie and the refereeing staff, they are trying. They're limited to what they can do. Referees aren't full-time, which is the first and foremost. You know, we've got a full-time league that millions and millions of pounds depend on, yet part-time referees are making those decisions after maybe a day at work. So and the same people are doing VAR. So it's very, very harsh to criticise them individually. I've tried not to. I might have done privately, but I've tried not to do it in public because they need all the help they can and they're not getting that. The SFA have to find a way to put referees full-time.
Now with that is a twofold question, which obviously we'll get to Aberdeen, and they took full advantage of their 2-man advantage. But with that point that you're making, VAR, speaking to millions of referees, you know, who are looking at this right across the world, but I focused on referees when it first came in. And the ethos of this was to get a greater percentage of the decisions right. It won't eliminate completely human error because there's still a human looking at the VAR and interpreting it as well. So do you believe that maybe that human error has not allowed them to get the greater percentage right?
Yeah, and again, those people that are doing that are part-time. It's not a full-time job. So, you know, any part-time player. The law of averages say if you're a full-time player, you'll be technically better, you'll be quicker, you'll be stronger, you'll be fitter. It's the same in refereeing. So it's easy to criticise everything in life. We live in a world where everybody criticises, and I feel every manager's pain. You know, I feel Neil's pain with it as well. You know, he feels a big effect on the game, but we have to try and help them as well. We have to try and give them the tools to be better and train them, putting them in loads of training courses. And Martin Atkinson's come up as well from England. And I know Martin, and they are trying. The referees are decent people that want to do well, and the errors they're making, as you say, are just human errors. It's not, you know, there's no conspiracy theories as likes to go around in Scotland sometimes. They just need more help with it, and as you say, to try and lessen the amount of mistakes.
Now, on that point, the flip side of that is, because, and I do feel your pain, and I do think you've got a legitimate case to say we're top of the league of decisions that have gone against you, because throughout the season I'm thinking to myself, there's another one. He's got a case for that one. I definitely understand why he's moaning about that one, but that could have been the difference between you making top six and not. It could have been far smoother.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm sure every club will find 5 and 6 games where, you know, the errors could have cost them in certain situations, but, you know, it was a culmination of them, and you're like, oh no, is this going to come back to bite us in the end? And luckily it didn't. You know, we didn't use it as excuses. As I say, we just, every game and every Monday morning I went in looking, the boys are, you know what they're like, they get together, that should have been a penalty, or the decision should have went away, but we can't affect that. And I've learned in football over time now, you have to move that away quickly and only worry about the things you can affect, not worry about the outside noise, worry about what's in front of you and what you can control.
Yeah, Aberdeen take the place in the cup final. Eventually, it's difficult to say, they've been taken to extra time, Ruffy, but they got the job done in the end.
Yeah, they did. You know, obviously the sending off, they put them on the ascendancy. They were pressing. They were the team that looked as if they were going to get a goal if a goal was coming. But you have to give Hearts credit. I thought they dug in. They got organised very quickly and made it very hard for Aberdeen.
Yeah, I have to say, the agony of it all is, before he goes off and it's down to 10 men, the Hearts players are automatically thinking, Tam, let's go to penalties. We've got Craig Gordon in goal.
Yeah, I just think that decision, that's why he's probably really annoyed at it, because I think they're seeing it out, Peter, with 10. I think with 9 men, there was still 3 or 4 minutes to go, and there's a big difference between 9 and 10. And they just got that little break, Aberdeen, and they got the goal. But I thought Hearts started the better team. I thought they started well on the front foot. The changing off obviously affects the game, but I think the Hearts supporters will see a team that gave everything. And you're right, I think they were just trying to get to penalties with Craig Gordon, and I think they've probably been favourites under him.
Yeah, just on a little footnote of that, they didn't win it. You said he'd be under pressure.
Yeah, I think he is, Peter, because, you know, it's another big game that Hearts have not won, and that's been the accusation from the supporters that I speak to, is I've not won a big game yet. You know, semi-finals, beating Motherwell in the last game, they lost twice against Hibs. So that's the games that he's got to win as a Hearts manager. So I think he will be, particularly if they don't beat Dundee at the weekend.
Yeah, I've spoken to a number of Hearts fans in Edinburgh over the last week, and I just feel as if the whole axis of buying people time has changed dramatically, Stephen. You mentioned, we were talking to you the last time on this programme, and you said to us, listen, it's all great, everybody's saying play young players, 3 games I lose, they want me sacked. Neil Crtichley said 1 transfer window, and suddenly they're all rounding on him. And there are a lot of Hearts fans I'm speaking to saying, no, we're not having him. That's the type of pressure you guys are under now.
I think it's just modern football now. It's crazy. There's absolutely no patience. And Neil's been in, is it 9 months? 9 months Neil's been in the job. So.
And they were second bottom of the league at the time.
Yeah, and you need time to build. You do. And if you look throughout football, the managers that have been given time have been relatively successful. But, you know, fans dictate a lot of things now, and social media dictates a lot of things. And unfortunately, people that make decisions read it. They read it, and they can get influenced, which I find incredible, because you have no idea. It could be, you know, it could be my 20-year-old son who is clueless, but probably had 4 or 5 pints while he's writing it. So it amazes me that football is run like that. You know, in any other business, you have a bad month, and you speak and you say, right, okay, these are our aims, this is where we go to. We've done our due diligence to bring you into our company. But in football, you have a bad month and everybody wants you sacked. I use Jim Goodwin as the example. You know, Jim had a bad 4 or 5 weeks at Aberdeen, and he signed a lot of the players that eventually got into Europe. But within those 4 or 5 weeks, it was dictated that he's not a good manager when Jim obviously was, and he's going to prove that again at Dundee United. So it's the world we live in, unfortunately, and the boards that have a strong backbone and a real belief in their recruitment of their manager are the ones that are probably seeing the fruits of that.
Yeah. With that in mind, I remember when I was at Radio Clyde's Super Scoreboard, Ruffy, Gordon Strachan used to fill at me, and he'd say, by the way, if two, and I'm paraphrasing here and changing the words, but he said, if two people phone in and say Gordon Strachan's an idiot, are they speaking for the majority? It goes back to what Stephen's saying about his son.
Yeah, but I think that's Stephen. When you've got your bosses, they've got to be strong, haven't they? You've got to have a relationship with the people who are running the company. You hope that they're not the ones that are getting affected by that small minority that's giving you the stick, and they're the one to move you on and all that. Just when you said your son there, my favourite story is Ian McCall when I was on the board at Thistle, and that certain element of fans wanted Ian out, and there was a big banner that said McCall must go. And after the game, we all dispersed and were going away, and here that element of fans went down to a pub and they'd taken photographs of the social media. So Ian McCall phones me up. He said, have you seen that photograph of that banner? McCall must go. He said, aye. He said, that's my son that's holding it up.
Well, you say that. So the darts. So Zach Hemming went to the darts with my son, and my son's wrote on Robbo out, and Zach's holding it up as they go to the darts in Glasgow. And then the next thing, there's a headline in the paper: Robinson, what players want Robinson out? You're like, no. That's and I think Zach's wife was going to kill him and things, So, but they make stories out of that there, and it's a little bit of joking. I've been very lucky that I've had a board that are not emotional. I think when you're attached to the football club or you're a fan, it's difficult because you think emotionally. And as I say, in most businesses you don't. You think with a longer term approach and longer term view. And unfortunately, we're in an industry that just has less and less of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave Cormack, obviously, there are times when maybe he's pulled the trigger quicker than most. But now with Jimmy Tulleen, he's looked at the manager, they've stuck by him. Great run at the start, then a really dodgy situation where they were on a consecutive run of defeats, and now suddenly they're in a cup final, and Dave Cormack himself said that 30 years ago, you wouldn't have been talking about a manager getting the sack.
20, 30 years ago, we would have given managers been more patient and more time. But in today's world, especially with social media, it's a real challenge. One way or the other, Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen, if they go through a hard time, it's either Hearts, Hibs or Aberdeen, and then it's rinse and repeat, so hopefully we can get a bit of stability in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, well, that tells you he's sticking by the manager, he's got a plan for him, and he's going to see what Jimmy Tulleen can do at Aberdeen. And I think the crucial thing that you mentioned, and we talk about it, and Ruffy's well aware of it from his time on the Partick Thistle board because he had Jerry Britton as a chief executive. You've got the likes of Tony Fitzpatrick and Keith Lasley also to kind of not so much educate, but give fans a greater understanding of a club, a manager, players, results, the bigger context of the season.
Yeah, I'm lucky with Keith because he's obviously been part of my staff as well, so he understands how I work and when to leave me alone and when to approach me, but also there's a realism. He understands the pitfalls and the pressures, and he understands the problems we have at St Mirren, and everybody at their club wants to believe, there is no problems, everything's perfect. You're speaking about Dave there, they're just about to build a new indoor training centre, which Dave's invested millions into the club again, which is fantastic. We're spending 40 grand on a training pitch and expecting it to be incredible. And Keith's got a realism to that. He understands what we can spend. It's all we can spend, but it's more than ever's been spent. And he wants to drive the club forward, but he knows it can only be done at a certain pace. So I'm lucky. Jim Gillespie's another one to mention. He's the vice chairman, and he's probably my go-between between the board as well. And he's a realism and a drive as well. He drives everything that we can to be a top six side, along with Keith, and I've terrific support, and Tony that you mentioned as well. They're big supporters. When things are going wrong, that's when you know who's got your back. You know, all of a sudden as a manager, people start whispering and they'll walk past you in the corridor and don't speak to you anymore. That's not the case here. You know, they're believe in what we're trying to do, and they believe in the longer term sort of good of the football club, and everyone's trying to work towards that. So I'm very privileged and very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Chalene himself now knows that they've got Celtic in the Scottish Cup final, and it's a huge opportunity to deliver silverware to Pittodrie.
Now we arrived to the final. We try to win it, of course, but you can hear after the game now with all the supporters and the players and all the staff. We are so connected, and we wanted this so much, and so for me it means a lot. And of course, and now we are there. We have to try to do the best to win it, but we know also if you manage or a player, you don't have so many chances in your career either to arrive to big finals and or fighting in the top of the league. So you have to also enjoy it, but also keep fighting for it.
Yeah, they're going to have to pull off something special. Of course, the last time they get derailed on that bad run, it was off the back of a 6-0 mauling at the hands of Celtic. And I always think Hampden Park, the way Brendan Rodgers' side plays, plays right into his style of football.
Yeah, listen, it's a big pitch, and Celtic's got so much pace and power in the wide areas as well, and through the middle, and it's difficult when the 5 substitutions as well, as Stephen said. They can change 4 or 5 an hour play and bringing on quality. You've seen the players they brought on yesterday, Jota, Kuhn, great players to bring on. So, yeah, and Celtic don't lose many finals, don't lose many games at Hampden full stop. So, yeah, I think that will still be in the back of Aberdeen's minds, that 6-0 in the semi-final of the League Cup, after going to Parkhead and getting a really good draw. So, listen, Celtic will need to have an off day and Aberdeen will need to play out their skin, but you never know in a one-off game in a cup final.
Yeah, and of course the other thing that's amazing about it all, and you're looking at the stats on it, if James Forrest is part of that team and then the league as well, he becomes the most decorated Celtic player ever. I was looking at James Forrest and thinking to myself, God, he's one of those guys that managers will be thinking, if they release him, he's an absolute belter to get a hold of.
Top 6 now, really. Get a few quid now.
Your mate Martin's on the phone going, by the way, he's still got legs.
100%, I'd take him in a heartbeat. He's been fantastic for Celtic, and a really grounded boy as well. And he's still playing ever so well. So Brendan's got a lot of good decisions to make in terms of who he picks. So we played them the week before the cup final, so hopefully everyone's rested and their second string team play, which I can't imagine being much easier, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean James Forrest. I mean, I don't think I can't even think if I've even. He doesn't even make page 5 of a tabloid newspaper, Ruffy. He's the most quiet. He's like McGregor. There's nothing that you ever see in the papers about him. It's that character that.
Yeah, well, that's what Stephen's talking about. That's the kind of guy you want. You want that he just comes in, does his training, and turns up every Saturday and influences the game. And that's what he's done for the time that he's been in early bells. Even in the European games against the Milans and the Barcelonas, he was always a standout in the position that he played, and just a credit to the club and himself.
Yeah. Do you want an extended Premiership?
Yes. I think for every reason, I've spoken about it before, you can look at the relegation now, you look at the bottom 6 and you can see why young players don't get given opportunities, and everyone wants them, and it's crazy because fans cry for young players to have opportunities. They've never seen them play. They've never been in an under-18 game to watch Evan Mooney play, to be honest. But yet the people want Evan to play, and so he should. He's a very, very good footballer. I'm just using that as an example. But you will get sacked quicker if you make mistakes, and younger players make more mistakes naturally because they're still learning the game. So number one, you won't be in a relegation scrap with every single kick of the ball, so you can, maybe 6 games to go, people start getting opportunities. All of a sudden they become a live option for next year. Plus the competition itself, you're playing teams less times. I do believe they still want to keep the split, with the excitement of the split. Can it be a 14-team league with a 6 and an 8 split? There's options. There's certainly options, but the league for me is too small. It's too predictable, and it doesn't lead. In my opinion, it doesn't lead to better football. It leads to percentage football a lot more.
What do you want though? What do you want? 14, 16, 18? What do you want?
I think our club want, or have suggested maybe a 14 league would work with the split still in place. There's definitely clubs that can come into the Premiership and enhance the Premiership in terms of attendances and stadiums. There's a lot of big clubs outside that as well, and teams that are growing. And I think for fans as well, you know, you get different places to go. It's not the same places 3 and 4 times a year. But the bigger thing for me is the style of football and the development of younger players. You know, you'll develop more young Scottish players, so the national game will benefit as well. But at the minute, it's so cutthroat. You know, there won't be too many people in that bottom 6 giving young players their debut in the last 5 games.
Would you be more likely to give, as Stephen Robinson of the situation where you say, okay, if it goes to 14, I'm more likely to throw in a talented youngster?
Oh, 100%, of course, because I say every club now in that bottom 6 are looking over their shoulder, and that fear factor of I can't afford him to make a mistake, you know. So we've got Peter Erminski, Evan Mooney. We can play them all now. Evan's not fit, unfortunately, but we can put people in if we feel it's right and dip them in with the first team and players, so they're in an environment that they can excel. It creates more profile for themselves. It might create more money for the football club because you sell them for a lot of money. But at the minute, I can see why there's a limited amount of young players being exposed to first team football.
And can the managers at the football clubs influence the owners for the change, or is that up to the owners thinking about the money side of it rather than the football side of it?
I mean, at my club, as I say, I'm very lucky. I've got a very good relationship with the people above me. I'm not sure in other clubs, you know, obviously people have got their own reasons for wanting smaller leagues or wanting bigger leagues. As a general, and for the you know, the enhancement of Scottish football and the development of Scottish football, I think it's a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer to have a bigger league.
Yeah, absolutely. We're with you on that. And on the other point of it, which the predictability of it, I think, you know, and I often mention years and years ago, Paul McStay used to say to me, the players know exactly which way I'm going to jink. You know, they know the trick, they know a step over, they can see which way you're playing, and it's this relentless. I mean, it's become, and I'm not criticising Celtic on this, by the way, they are head and shoulders above everybody, so you're automatically looking 13 of the last 14, they've won it. That's not their fault. When Rangers were winning 9 in a row and they had much more money than anybody else, fine and dandy, but you'd like to see something to get 2 or 3 teams out with Celtic and Rangers that could maybe take a scalp every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Celtic the dominant force, Peter. It's very difficult, and it's up to the other teams to get closer to those levels rather than Celtic coming back to the rest of the teams. They drive themselves. They want to go and do well in the Champions League and dominate domestically here. But I think it's born for the players as well. You know, when I was a player and it was 10 team or 12 teams, sometimes you were playing them 5-6 times a season. You know, you maybe get them in a couple of cups. You're playing the same team 5 or 6 times, born for fans. So I think definitely 14, maybe even 16, but listen, that's up to the owners of the clubs and the SPFL to come round the table and get that done, but I think it would encourage more young players definitely as well.
Yeah, and a team that would be a welcome addition to the Scottish Premiership. I must be a Jonah, by the way, for these games, because I thought, I'm heading to Falkirk, we're doing a documentary on them, this will be a win against Raith Rovers. Lo and behold, they get a man sent off, and then within 10 minutes the game collapses, Raith Rovers win it. Look at Ruffy with a smile on his face.
I warned him on Friday.
Because Falkirk are going to Partick Thistle.
Please don't come and watch us anytime you think we're going to do well.
Honestly, I'm looking at John McGlynn and I'm thinking to myself, my God Almighty, you know. And in contrast to that, Raith Rovers, fair play to them, they took full advantage of the man advantage. But at the end of it, John McGlynn had one view on the game, Barry Robson another.
Really comfortable in the game. Where we've got this knack of making things much harder than they need to be, and that's what we've done. It goes to the Partick Thistle game and on the Friday night, so we dust ourselves down, we get back in on Monday and we get going again. We've got to stick together, you know. It's a sore one for us all. We've taken a little, 3 sore ones now, the late goal at Ayr and the late goal against Livingston. It could all have been done and dusted by now if we had managed to have to defend well and no lose of discipline today. We could have been all over.
Look where we are now compared to where we were 3 months ago. That's just down to the hard work for the players, having a good structure, having the fans behind us. And when you're on a wee run like this, it brings that confidence with you as well. So something we need to take in next week.
Isn't it amazing when you look at Barry Robson again, one of those managers sacked and then reinventing himself again, given a platform at Raith Rovers, and they're on a great unbeaten run as well. I mean, both those clubs, and I look at maybe Dunfermline, they might throw a bit of money in it next season if they're in that division, which they undoubtedly looks as if they will be. All good teams that could be in the Premiership.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's that's what I was alluding to when I said there's a lot of teams. Ayr United now has big investment going into as well. Partick, there's good clubs. Livy already been a Premiership club. There's definitely teams and fan bases that can enhance the Premiership, and two very good examples there. And Barry's done a great job now, and he's reacted to losing his job at Aberdeen, and he's come back stronger. And I think sometimes it does make you stronger, and you learn from your mistakes, and things become a little bit clearer in what you want to try and do, and maybe what you've done wrong. So sometimes the second time round is a little bit better if you're lucky enough to get that chance.
Yeah, absolutely. John McGlennon, I mean, no disrespect to any of the teams in the Premiership, but there was early on in the season, Falkirk went to Celtic Park for 70 minutes. And
excellent,
absolutely played them at their own game. And I've watched them on more than a few occasions in that championship. And they play a really good attacking brand of football, equally so, without in any way trying to dismiss it. I see your side at times playing that same type of, attacking, get the ball into the box. I mean, football, as you know, it's not exactly rocket science. It hasn't suddenly overdeveloped. I mean, fast players get ball in box, striker scores goals.
Yeah, and I think that's what fans want to see. It's exciting, and credit to John and his team. They do. You've referred to the Celtic game. It was a great game. It was, you weren't sure who was a Premiership side, which is the biggest compliment I can give them when they're playing against Celtic. And it's now got down to the last couple of games. It may go down to the last game, depending on results on Friday night as well. So, they're both managers that are very successful, and there's now maybe 2 or 3 teams in the running for it as well.
A couple of things I want to talk to you about before you go. We're delighted that you come in here to spend some time with us, Stephen. Premiership Team of the Year. I'm going to read it out. I did ask, is there any St Mirren player in it before you come in here? But of course, I think the players all vote for it, not anybody in a committee. Schmeichel in goal, Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, John Suter, James Penrice, Nicholas Raskin, Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, Nicholas Kuhn, Sam Dalby, and Dyson Maeda. Would there be a player in your side you think, oh, come on, he could have been a sub, but he could have been a sub in that team, or he was close to running it? We've
had a couple, but I'm not sure that we'd be in that team if we're being honest. I think Killian Phillips has been superb for me this season. Marcus Fraser has been superb for me. There's Toyosi Olusanya has been a revelation for us. But when you're actually competing against Idah, it's levels at times as well. So there's a lot of top players in that league, or in that team.
I'd love to see his Fitbit, would you?
I'd love to have him. When he's next to me during the game, I'm like, you must be tired. Come on, it's time to come off. But then they bring Kuhn on instead, and I'm like, oh no, here we go. But no, he must be an absolute dream. I spoke to a couple of Celtic players who had done a morning session with him, and they said, like, he just keeps running. He doesn't breathe. He doesn't say a lot. He just smiles. I think he's just your dream player.
Yeah. Tell us the Olusanya story.
So it's just about enjoying the moment. Toy, before he was struggling to get in and out of the team a couple of years ago, and we made him train. It was about 10 players trained on the Monday. The rest of the boys were doing a recovery, and he was moaning about it. He wasn't happy at all, and he broke his toe. So he didn't play for, I think, maybe 4 months. And I said to him, that's why you can never take for granted and never have the hump because you're not playing, because playing's a privilege, training's a privilege. You don't know when it's going to be your last time. And the penny dropped, and he came in every day with a smile on his face. He worked his socks off. He's got an incredible move, and he's one of the nicest boys I've ever worked with as well. So he's a brilliant example, but I use it all the time to say to players, look, enjoy the moment, enjoy now, enjoy training, because it's never as bad as you think. These are good times.
Yeah, and MLS?
Fantastic, yeah. Houston Dynamo. So I'm not sure if it's been officially announced yet. He is in America, I'd imagine, doing medicals and all that. So hopefully, all being well with that. It's a terrific move for him, and the club have done well out of it as well. We've got a 6-figure fee with a matter of weeks left to the end of the season. So fans will be like, why have you let him go? I mean, there's only 5 games left. The club have done terrific out of it. Toyosi's done terrific out of it as well, and hopefully he goes on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope he likes the heat in Houston.
Well, that's the other thing about it. Only really good players can go there and stay for a long period of time. Some get released pretty quickly when they're found out.
Colorado was altitude. Couldn't you breathe there? That's Max good.
Ruffy, you enjoyed it. By the way, I hate to say this to you because we were going to ask you about the eventually I'll be the Northern Ireland boss. Ruffy went to Orlando to play in the MLS in the early years, and he went there, and the guy he used to hang about with, George Best. I mean, can you believe it?
That was a quiet couple of months.
The first game we played, we got beat 3-0. We're all sitting in the dressing room going, hurry up, let's get ready. The party's after this. No, on party? Just be beat 3-0. Oh no, we always have a party. And I'm going, I've waited 25 years for this.
Perfect.
Yeah. By the way,
can I ask you before we go? We all sit here and it's getting to the stage. You read out the team of the year, manager of the year. You all vote, don't you?
Yeah.
Can you tell us your criteria?
I probably
you don't have to name who it is. Just what's the criteria?
I'll tell you who I voted for. I don't mind saying that there. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. What's the criteria? I try to be honest now, who's done a really good job. There's lots of people in the Premiership. You mentioned John McGlynn as well, and the Championship's done a really good job. But Brendan obviously could potentially win a treble. David Gray's had an incredible run in his first job, and Jim Goodwin as well. You know, I think for me and John are the four people in the running. You have to vote. You have to give 2 votes. So I voted for 2 out of those 4.
You have to give 2 votes.
You give your first and second in case there's a tie. So I won't tell you the 2 out of them 4 that I've put forward. No, I won't do it. I won't do it. No.
So that's the criteria.
Yeah, I think people have done really well. I admire any manager that puts your neck in the line. You know, there's so many people who've got opinions, and some of them extremely uneducated opinions, and the majority of them you wouldn't cross the road to hear. But that actually...
Your son?
Don't listen to them, you're joking, no chance. I had my older son over today, that's why I was late, and he's telling me, you need to pick him, you need to play him, and I'm like, you've watched him in a 5-a-side, come on, leave me alone. But no, I just try and be fair and who you admire, and I admire every manager, and I mean, the 4 guys that I've mentioned have had terrific seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that in mind, when I'm not dismissing the story out of hand, because I know we've talked about it before as well, you know, a Northern Ireland boy, it would be a great honour to become the Northern Ireland manager, but you are not one of those people that I think in the next 10 years is anywhere near the Northern Ireland job. And it's not because of Michael O'Neill, it's just because I see you and I think he loves the buzz. He loves the every day-to-day of building a side, of creating, enjoying the fun with the players and getting success.
Yeah, I think... Michael says that's what he misses. He misses the day-to-day, misses the day-to-day interaction with players and the dressing room. You miss the dressing room anyway. You know, when I walk in now, all the banter stops, nobody speaks. So it's something in the future would very much interest me. I joked about it earlier in the week. Michael's got a 20-year contract, so I'm not sure what age I'll be when that finally comes about again. It's something, I think, as you start out as a young manager, you want to manage at the very highest level. International football is that. You know, you come up against some of the top managers in the world, but hopefully I've got a little bit more club stuff to do before that.
Yeah, what does it say when you start to hear, and I'm not talking about any specific club, but we in here have got a standing joke with most of the people who are on our feed. You know, they're waiting and they're saying, well, wait, see how long it takes for Peter Martin to suggest Neil Lennon for a job or Stephen Robinson. Because quite simply, you're linked with a lot of jobs. I'm not being dismissive of St Mirren, but bigger jobs because of the job you're doing there.
Yeah, I take it with a pinch of salt, to be honest with you. I know people say, they don't read stuff and they don't hear stuff. I don't. My boys do like to tell me when I'm getting hammered. I mean, they can't wait to tell me, this guy said that and hammered you. I don't want to know. I think it affects your decision making, it affects your mindset, it affects your mood. So I try and not listen to too many opinions, and social media especially. As I said, you wouldn't cross the road to listen to some of them. So why let them into your life? So when you're linked with stuff, I get asked about it in the press, and I put it down to the players and their performances. We're doing something right. If you're linked with jobs, you're doing something right. But until any of that materialises, I think you need to concentrate fully on the job in front of you, because football is a funny way of bringing you back down to earth very, very quickly.
Yeah. 2 questions, and then we're going to finish this show. We've thoroughly enjoyed your company. The St Mirren fans will look and say, right, top 6, okay, we're in there, come on. You know, let's have a right go at it. I looked and I thought to myself, man, you need to win. You need to get 10 points out of 15 to have a chance of Europe. So I'm wondering, you might play the odd young player, but you're going to have a go at it, aren't you?
Oh, 100%. You know, I got all the players together today and said, listen, anybody that's down in tools, anybody that's signing pre-contracts anywhere, I understand it, I get that, but we're 100% committed to trying to get into Europe, and we'll do everything in our power to do that. You know, you don't play weakened teams. You play younger players when they're ready to enhance the first team or be as good as what's in there. And we may do that over the next 5 games with individuals, but it won't be wholesale. I want to get into Europe. If you win the first 2, who knows? You put pressure on people, who knows?
Yeah, I'm not going to go and see you in any of those.
No, please
games.
Please don't. No.
And the last point on this is, Olusanya goes. Do you start thinking now, or Martin, get on the go, or do you have to wait to a specific month?
No, we started in January. Maybe before that, we start as soon as one window closes. We're going right. These are the problems. We're going to lose Richard Taylor. We're going to lose Toy. We're going to lose maybe these 5 players. So straight away, we can't get into a race with people. If we get into a race with Hearts or Hibs or Dundee, they blow us out of the water. The players, the teams I've mentioned there and below. Obviously, the teams above us do as well. But we have to have our due diligence in place. We have to have maybe a list of 10 because they go very quickly, and then there's the next list of 10. So we've had lots of talks with people. The English season is hopefully coming to a close, and obviously the Easter games are big in terms of where teams are. So hopefully things will start moving in the next few weeks. So yeah, we've got our eye on. We always knew Toy was going to leave. Toy was very honest and said he's not going to sign a contract, and he's been terrific. He's shown a great attitude and a real loyalty to St Mirren, as Richard Taylor and the other boys who haven't signed. So we know where we're going to lose players and where we can strengthen. And we need to. I think, as I said, every 3 years the manager has to change, or a good number of players have to change to freshen me up, to freshen everybody up. Maybe a different system, a different style. I get bored. I really get bored with 3-5-2 but it suited us to do that this season, and we reinvented ourselves a little bit in the last 10 weeks with 2 wingers. Ryan Alabusi's like a winger and Declan John's like a winger instead of fullbacks playing as wing-backs. So there's lots of things that freshen everyone, freshen the fans, freshen the club, and we're I wouldn't say we're well on our way to doing that, because it's difficult to get people to sign for the money we're able to pay, but we're certainly in talks with a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure that will excite a number of St Mirren fans out there who think managers just do it reacting. It's been proactive, and it's been great getting a chance to chat with Stephen once again on the show. More managers coming on our show to talk football. Thanks to Ruffy. You weren't at your best today, Ruffy. I think you were just offered a wee bit.
Easter, I'm still trying to recover for the kids.
Yeah.
Rolling eggs down hills. I'm just too old for that now.
Absolutely. Thanks to Tam, thanks to Ruffy, and a big thanks to Stephen Robinson for coming into the show. Hopefully you enjoyed his chat. Congratulations to Celtic and Aberdeen. They're in the Scottish Cup final. We will be covering that with the build-up, and in the remaining games, top 6, bottom 6. Don't forget to download the PLZ Soccer app, and you'll get all that breaking news and the build-up and the reaction after the games. If you download the app, it's all there at your fingertips. From all of us here on The Football Show, thank you for listening and thank you for watching, and we'll leave you with this thought, because all of the programmes that you watch across all of PLZ Soccer's YouTube, Women's Football Show, Tam's Footballers Football Show, Straight Talk, One-to-Ones, they're absolutely free, but we're launching something called PLZ Premium. We're going to give you new, exciting, additional stuff, and we hope you subscribe to that too. Thanks for watching and listening.
PLZ Soccer is the #1 digital sports channel in Scotland, and we're offering you the chance to sign up to our exclusive PLZ Premium service.
All our existing content and weekly programmes across all our channels absolutely free of charge. PLZ Premium is offering you exclusive additional content to enjoy.
PLZ Premium offers you exclusive benefits on top of your monthly subscription.
The first 1,000 subscribers will receive a special A4 Legends poster as a PLZ Premium member.
You'll get exclusive video content, including a special Peter Martin Straight Talk One-to-One with a legend of the beautiful game.
Every month you'll have exclusive access to ask questions on our special live stream, and you can join us by live video link up.
You also get discounts on official merchandise, early access to tickets for our live events, and exclusive behind the scenes footage.
We have a special free draw for premium members with the chance to win a Legends t-shirt.
Come and join the football family and be part of our brand new premium service on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel.
PLZ Soccer, delivering you the best coverage of Scottish football. Wherever you are, we are.